Gunfire explodes inside a Montreal bar, one of dozens of battlegrounds in a war for control of the city's drug trade. 3 men are cut down where they stand. Glass shatters, bottles roll across the floor, and the target of the attack, a man barely 5 feet 4 inches, crawls under a table and goes silent. Walter Stadnick doesn't scream. He doesn't run. He waits, heart pounding, counting every shot until the gunmen are gone. When the last shell hits the floor, he stands up, surveys the carnage, and walks out alive. That calm under fire would become his trademark, and within a few years, this man, underestimated by almost everyone, will rise to unite every Hells Angel chapter in Canada under one patch, forcing police to launch the biggest anti-gang operation the country had ever seen. Miss the button? Go ahead. Subscribe now so you don't forget later. Hamilton, Ontario, the East End. In a modest house on East 16th Street, a boy named Volodymyr grows up under the weight of 2 worlds. At home, he is quiet, obedient, the child of Ukrainian immigrants who preach discipline and hard work. At church, he is reminded to keep his head bowed, his voice soft. But outside those walls, Hamilton is not gentle. Fistfights are currency, and respect is measured in who backs you up when things get ugly. Volodymyr, later known simply as Walter, isn't big enough to win every fight, so he learns to win another way, with planning, with leverage, with friends who owe him. By his teens, the mask of the Catholic schoolboy is gone. He is dealing LSD and hash with precision, not recklessness, organized enough to make himself indispensable. When police finally pick him up, the arrests don't scare him straight. They teach him the system. They teach him that if your crew is loyal, you walk out stronger than you went in. One day in a Hamilton courthouse hallway, that lesson becomes real. A police officer takes the stand against Walter's friends. The hallway explodes into chaos, fists flying, uniforms scrambling, and Walter sees, maybe for the first time, how a loyal circle can turn a public building into a battlefield. That moment brands him. Loyalty isn't just protection, it's power. He wants more. Walter and a few friends start the Wild Ones, a small motorcycle club. They are young, loud, and reckless, but not stupid. The Wild Ones quickly gain a reputation for being willing to take work no one else will touch. Bombings, arsons, messages that need to be sent on behalf of the mafia. They do it for cash, and they do it right. Walter learns that violence can be profitable if it is precise. Then comes the first ceiling. Walter applies to Satan's Choice, the largest biker club in Ontario. The decision lands on one man's desk, Mario the Wop Parente. And Parente says no. Walter is too short. 5'4" is a number, not an insult. But for Walter, it feels like a verdict on his entire future. It becomes the chip on his shoulder that never goes away. Parente has just created a rival, though he won't realize it for years. Unable to patch over, Walter doubles down. The Wild Ones grow bolder. Their reputation catches the attention of the Hells Angels in Montreal. Walter wants the patch. He wants to be more than a local player. But just as the deal is coming together, another club notices. The Outlaws, bitter rivals of the Angels, who see the Wild Ones as defectors. October 12, 1978. Le Tourbillon Bar in Montreal becomes a war zone. Shotguns blast through smoke-filled air. 3 men drop, 1 Angel, 2 Wild Ones. The rest scatter. Walter doesn't run. He crawls under a table, still as the dead, counting each shot until the guns go silent. When the shooters leave, Walter stands up. There's blood everywhere, friends gone, the smell of gunpowder hanging in the air, and something in him hardens. When he returns to Hamilton, the Wild Ones are broken. They vote to disband, to save their own lives. Walter doesn't. He patches into the Angels, the only one to make the leap. He is now an English-speaking outsider in a French-dominated club, standing alone, but alive. And for Walter, alive is not enough. By the late 1970s, Walter is no longer just the small Hamilton kid with a grudge. The Wild Ones are patched over to the Outlaws Motorcycle Club, sworn enemies of the Hells Angels. For a time, Walter plays the role of model soldier, quiet, disciplined, a man who can calm a room full of bikers with a look instead of a bat. His reputation grows not just for violence, but for control. Then Ontario erupts. Satan's Choice and the Outlaws trade gunfire in parking lots, burn each other's clubhouses, and leave bodies cooling in alleyways. Walter survives every clash. People notice. He is calm even after shootings, standing still when others dive for cover. Surviving this long doesn't just make him lucky, it makes him feared. When you're a man like Walter, surviving a war does two things. It raises your status, and it lowers your fear threshold. The outlaws are wild, volatile, hard-drinking. Walter isn't. He wants order, not chaos. He wants more than a patch. He wants a platform to expand his reach. Then Parente reappears, the man who once rejected him, now leading Satan's Choice into the fight. Walter watches from across the battlefield, burning to settle the score. Every shooting, every explosion, every dead man with the wrong patch brings him closer to a decision. What do you do when the man who humiliated you is now a target sanctioned by your allies? Do you stay loyal to your patch or play a longer game? Walter chooses the long game. Behind closed doors, he starts secret talks with the HELLS Angels, the very men the outlaws are trying to kill. To leave the outlaws for the Angels isn't just defection, it's treason. But Walter isn't just defecting. He is trading up. The Angels offer him more than protection. They offer him an empire. Bars keep burning. More Angels and outlaws die. Walter keeps smiling, keeps showing up, keeps his patch clean while quietly building his future. He studies how the Angels operate, structured, profitable, disciplined. They are what he wishes the outlaws could be. Then he makes the move. Walter Stadnick flips. He walks away from the outlaws and patches over to their worst enemy, the HELLS Angels. This isn't just a career move. It is a death sentence. The outlaws kill traitors. But Walter has done the math. The outlaws can kill a man. The Angels can crown one. It is the first radical betrayal of his life, and it will make his name echo across Canada's underworld. Quick reminder, if you're still watching, what happens when a man betrays his club, lives through the war he helped fight, and joins the side that was trying to kill him? In 1983, Walter Stadnick does the unthinkable. He patches over to the HELLS Angels. To outsiders, it looks like just another biker getting a new set of colors. Inside the outlaw world, it is a thunderclap. The outlaws consider him a traitor. The Satan's Choice see him as a future problem. And yet somehow he walks through this fire untouched. Inside the Angels, Walter wastes no time. He earns his patch not by shouting or swinging a chain, but by staying calm under fire. Everyone notices. When bullets fly, Walter doesn't panic. When deals go wrong, Walter finds a way to make them work. In a world that rewards chaos, he is a man of order. This makes him dangerous, because he is both violent and rational. The Angels reward him with responsibility. Walter doesn't just sit at the table. He begins building the table. He brings a Hamilton-style discipline to Montreal business, and slowly his influence grows. But surviving the patchover was only the beginning. By the late 1980s, the violence is no longer just fists and knives. Bombings, machine guns, car chases. The biker wars escalate into something closer to urban warfare. Walter is targeted at least once by a plot so violent it sounds like fiction. A rocket-propelled grenade meant for him never goes off. He walks away, once again, alive. People start calling him unkillable. Each attempt on his life only makes him more untouchable. Allies respect him. Enemies fear him. And Walter leans into that image, using it as a shield. Throughout the early 1990s, he is everywhere. Patch meetings, sit-downs, negotiations with independent clubs. If a club wants to survive in Ontario, Walter's name comes up. And then, in 1993, he does what no one thought possible. Walter Stadnick becomes the national president of the HELLS Angels in Canada. It is a quiet coup, the kind Walter prefers. No blood on the floor, no screaming in a clubhouse, just a transfer of power. And suddenly, every angel in Canada answers to him. This is the moment Walter has been waiting for since the day Mario Parente told him no. Now, he is the man making the decisions. But Ontario is still divided. The Angels hold Montreal, the Outlaws hold large parts of Ontario. Satan's Choice remains stubbornly independent. Walter knows he can't hold the presidency without uniting the patchwork of bikers under one flag. He starts reaching out, not just to Angels, but to men who have been shooting at angels for a decade. What kind of man invites his enemies to a table and expects them to sit down? Walter Stadnick is that man. Behind closed doors, he calls for a meeting, a summit that will bring together men who have lost brothers to each other's bullets. It is either the start of peace or the opening move in a bigger war. When that meeting happens, Canada's biker world will never be the same. The year 2000 becomes the year Walter Stadnick cements his legend. After years of quiet maneuvering, sit-downs, and secret deals, Walter's summit pays off. One by one, Ontario's independent clubs fall in line. The outlaws lose their grip on the province. Satan's choice, the club that once turned Walter away, votes to patch over. It is a moment so symbolic it feels scripted. Dozens of clubhouses swap patches overnight. Ontario goes red. The Niagara chapter becomes the jewel of the empire, the single largest concentration of HELLS Angels members anywhere in the world. What was once a regional fight is now a national consolidation. Walter has done what no one before him could. He unites Canada under one flag. For the first time, police stop calling the biker wars a series of gang fights. They start calling it an organized crime empire. Walter rules it like a businessman, not just a gangster. His philosophy is simple. Buy a drink first. Talk before blood. Sit down before shooting. But no one mistakes diplomacy for weakness. Every man in the room knows, if you cross Walter, there will still be blood. He travels across provinces, holding meetings with patch members, smoothing disputes, keeping the machine running. He isn't loud. He isn't flashy. But every decision he makes sends ripples through the underworld. With the patchover complete, money flows faster than ever, drug routes expand, extortion rackets grow, and clubhouses become fortresses. The Angels are no longer fighting for Ontario. They own it. Walter is no longer just a survivor. He is the single most powerful outlaw biker in Canada. His word decides who lives, who dies, who gets patched in, and who gets buried outside the clubhouse gate. But while Walter consolidates power on the streets, someone else is consolidating power behind the scenes. Police are not just listening. They are sitting in on meetings, wearing wires, building cases piece by piece. Operation Shark QC is already in motion, an investigation so deep that even some patched members don't know they're being watched. The very organization Walter spent decades building is now compromised from the inside, and when the hammer finally drops, it won't just be Walter's empire at risk. It will be the entire Canadian chapter of the HELLS Angels. You're still here? Do what you meant to do earlier. Subscribe. Walter Stadnick built an empire brick by brick, but in the end, it isn't a rival club that brings him down. It is one of their own. For years, police had tried to penetrate the Angels' inner circle and failed. Then came Danny Kane, a man who wore the patch, sat at the table, and quietly passed every conversation to law enforcement. Kane's reports are meticulous, detailed, almost obsessive. He gives the cops everything: names, dates, shipments, alliances, and even Walter's meetings. By 2001, investigators are sitting on a gold mine of intelligence. Then comes Operation Springtime 2001, the largest single police action against organized crime in Canadian history. At dawn, raids hit clubhouses across Quebec and Ontario. Doors are kicked in, members are dragged out in cuffs. By the time the smoke clears, 142 HELLS Angels are under arrest, and Walter Stadnick is one of them. He is charged with conspiracy to murder, drug trafficking, and gangsterism. For a man who built a reputation on staying calm under fire, his arrest becomes the moment that strips away the myth. Cameras catch him being let out, head down, no words for reporters. In court, prosecutors don't just accuse Walter of crimes, they accuse him of building an entire system, of turning Canada into HELLS Angels territory through strategy, intimidation, and blood. The trial is brutal. Weeks of testimony turn Walter from a shadowy figure into a household name. The public sees the man they called the Canadian Godfather of the Angels. And when the verdict is read, Walter stands stone-faced as he is sentenced to 20 years in prison. For most men, that would be the end of the story. But Walter is not most men. Behind bars, he doesn't disappear. He doesn't retire. Reports claim he still controls money flow through loan sharking, drug connections, and messages passed through visitors. Even locked in a cell, his name still carries weight. And that leaves one question hanging over everyone: police, bikers, and rivals alike. If Walter Stadnick can still pull strings from inside prison, did Operation Springtime really end his empire? Walter Stadnick eventually walks out of prison, older but still carrying the calm stare that made him dangerous. He slips back into Hamilton without fanfare. No press conference, no public statement, just a quiet return to the place where it all started. And then, almost nothing. Police reports grow thinner. Public sightings become rare. Some investigators claim he is retired. Others insist he still has a seat at the table, pulling strings where no one can see. Even now, Walter's name carries the same weight it did when Ontario went red. He started as a quiet Catholic schoolboy rejected by his first club. He crawled out from under a table as bullets flew. He outlived assassination attempts, patched over half a country, and stood trial for running a criminal empire. Today, no one can say for certain whether Walter Stadnick is truly finished or simply waiting for the next move. And that is the most unnerving part of his story, because Walter Stadnick remains proof that the smallest man in the room can still be the most dangerous.